Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to the pipeline. I am here today joined by the amazing, the spectacular, the fantastic, the all the amazing things I could possibly say. Everest, aka Arkanize, how's it going? It's great to have you back on the channel.
Be more happy to be on the stream.
Yeah, man. No, it's been a while. It's been I was checking earlier. I think it's been about 3 years since we've done anything like YouTube type stuff together. And I'm very glad that you reached out and was like, hey, let's do something. It's been a minute. And I think Across the Spider Verse is one of those things where like this seems like a property that we both just really love a lot. And I feel like that's been a while because I feel like our opinions are definitely very different as we've kind of grown up and as we both have kind of got older. But yeah, but man, I really hope you are doing well, and I'm very excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. Hope that you're well as well. And this I can't wait to talk about this movie. I've got so many thoughts. We've both seen it twice, so it
Yes,
should be a lot of fun.
absolutely. So starting out the stream here, we do got some headlines that I do want to get into. All of your pulp culture type stuff. That's always a lot of fun to talk about. So starting off here, we have Spider-Man 2, the sequel to the hit game from 2018, a game that I think you've played, a game that I have played. I'm actually playing the Miles game right now. Are you excited for this game? Do you think that October is a good place for this movie or game?
Yeah,
I mean,
the game. Yeah, I love the first Spider-Man. Came out in 2018, I think. Played it through like twice, and I also played Miles Morales. So I'm glad you're finally checking that out. I think that's a good game as well. It's a little bit short, but I'm excited for this. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a PS5 by
sure,
the time it comes out. So if we can pull that off, then yeah, I'll be pumped for sure. But I don't know
sure.
how that's gonna go. As far as the release date, I think it works. If memory serves correctly, the first Spider-Man game came out around the same time, September,
Yeah, I
October.
think it's September. Yeah.
Yeah, so they like that fall release date, Insomniac, and I think it should be good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that this is a very fun like Halloweeny type game, maybe with like Venom seeming to be a big part of it. And it's that perfect like Christmas, like right before Christmas, they give everyone a chance to either
Hmm.
buy this game or like the PS5. Which again, I'm going to try my hardest to get PS5 before this game comes out. But again, I wonder how many people are going to struggle to get PS5s again, in order to play this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's just like I'm not a big enough gamer to
Sure.
necessarily go out of my way to spend hundreds of dollars to play Spider-Man 2. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there's some other stuff that I'd of course be interested in, but I'm not the type of guy that's gaming like every day,
Sure.
so I'm not sure if it'll be worth it for me, but I'm super excited for the people that have PS5s and are going to be able to play it.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, and I'm very curious about that like co-play between Peter and Miles because it seems like both
Mm,
characters are going to be a pretty big part of this movie. With like the second one, it's basically just Miles and Peter's there as well, some of it, but it seems like it's going to be a pretty fun co-op type thing. Um,
yeah, definitely. I don't know how far you are in Miles, but there's some parts in the Miles Morales game where the Prowler is
mhm,
with Miles, and they do some kind of. It's not necessarily co-play because it's just one person, but they do
yeah,
like tag team attacks and stuff, where they're like combining their powers to do single attacks. And so I think if you could work some of that in with Peter and Miles, it would be really cool.
sure. Absolutely agree. So up next here, I probably wouldn't have even put this in here, but apparently Universal and Illumination are recently closing a deal to make a Zelda movie. Now we were talking about Zelda the other day. I like up until this week I didn't even know he couldn't talk, so I don't know much about the character of Zelda. Obviously, like I really enjoyed the like Mario movie that just came out. I had a good time with it. I think you relatively did as well. Are you down for a like Zelda movie as well?
I'm not like a huge Zelda fan or anything. The character on screen there is named
Sure.
Link, by the way. That's not
Yeah.
Zelda. But uh, I'm not a big fan, but I'd be down to see it. I love the Sonic movies that have come out, and I thought Mario was a good time at the movie theaters. I don't have super strong feelings about that film,
Hmm.
but I think Zelda is a franchise that could lend itself to live action and like a movie or TV show pretty well because it's got that very like outdoor, almost Lord of the Rings kind of adventure
Sure.
vibe that I think could be very cool if pulled off.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen from most people, I think it's the illumination that's worrying people because I think that is a company that often plays it very safe and often kind of sticks to like the rules. And yeah, again, as much as I liked Mario, I think like the one thing I've seen about it is like it should have gone further, it could have gone farther. And I think Zelda does seem like a more, just from like what I've seen, a more serious environment than like a Mario would be, or like a like Minions would be. So I would be curious, and I've seen like them say that like they want to do more with their brand, and I could see them at a place where maybe they could start doing more with their company. So yeah, I'd be very curious about this, and to see like what the ultimate outcome would be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely curious, but not necessarily excited just off the announcement. So we'll have to see.
So up next we have some Superman Legacy cast. So we talked about this
Hmm.
like back when it first kind of a lot of these came out, but these seem more official. Like okay, these are the official front runners for Superman Legacy. So I think we were talking a little bit over on Discord earlier. So I was like, you know what, let's throw this in there. What are your opinions on these set castings currently?
As far as like people in the running, I mean, just kind of looking at them and what I know from them, I only have like well-developed opinions on one of them for each Clark and
Sure,
Lois, which for Superman would be Nicholas Holt. I've seen him in quite a bit, and I actually think he's turned himself into quite a good young
sure.
actor over the past like decade or so. You know, he started out and he wasn't that good, but he's kind of worked and gotten better and better. I don't know if he exactly looks like Superman or looks like Clark as much as notably David Cornswit
Sure.
does over there. I mean, that just looks like Clark Kent to me.
Yeah.
But Nicholas Holt would be the one I have the most faith in as an actor. So, but any of those three could be good and could prove the other two. I just have to see what they've
Yeah.
got as actors. I don't have much experience with them. And then on the lowest side, I obviously am a big Emma Mackey fan, and I think she would do great as Lois Lane. So that'd probably be my choice there. But it's hard to know when you don't know the exact script James Gunn is going
Sure.
for and how those characters are really going to play out. So any of these people could be the perfect fit.
Yeah, no, I think we're in pretty good hands. I think James Gunn does have a pretty good track record when it comes to castings. Like I love all the Guardian stuff. I love all the like Peacemaker casting stuff like that. So again, I think any one of these actors would be good. I think David I think David's very much the like safe choice here. Like that just looks like Superman. You cast him, he's gonna do a great job as Superman. I was looking at some clips that people posted and it just sounded like like Superman dialogue like coming from him. I was like, okay, he's good. I definitely think Nicholas is that like kind of bigger name actor though. Like I definitely think he's more interesting choice as well. I guess is what I'm thinking. Like I feel like if you're going for something a little bit different than what we've seen from Superman, because I think Superman can often become a very bland casting. Like I don't think it's a hard person to cast, and you just need like a white guy, like think. So I think again, any of these guys would do. I think David is kind of like my number one, just because he looks so much like Clark in Superman. Like he could do a great job, but. And then I don't know anything about Tom. Like I don't think I've seen anything that this guy's been in. So
Yeah, I don't know.
and then I would love Emma Mackey just because I think she's a great actress from like the things I've seen. Like I love her in the like Sex Education. I think she's great over there. I also think Phoebe's really good, but I don't see Phoebe as Lois thus far. Like when I see Phoebe, I don't automatically see Lois, but maybe that's because of the hair. Like maybe it's just like my brain being like, oh, that's not Lois.
Yeah.
Um, I think Emma, because I do think Emma could definitely have that kind of flair that is Lois Lane. Like I feel that from her.
Hmm.
Um, And of course, I love Phoebe from the like Bridgerton stuff, so I think she's good over there as well. So yeah, I'm not sure, but again, I think any of these choices would be a solid choice for this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Also, if they go with Nicholas Hoult, it would be a kind of cool story because he was basically second in the
Batman,
running for the
yeah,
new Batman and lost out to Robert Pattinson. So
sure.
he'd be like, "Oh man, didn't get Batman. I'll just play the other biggest DC superhero."
Sure, sure.
Could be
I'll
could
be
be
honest. I
fun.
still really like his Lex. Like, I think he could play a really fun, like, young, spoiled, rich kid gone evil type thing. Like, I think that could be like I saw that first, like, oh, actually, I really like that casting.
Hmm.
But I think Superman could be cool as well.
Yeah.
So next up here, as we kind of get into the Spider Verse stuff, I just kind of wanted to talk about all the praise this movie has been getting, because of course, like this is the first movie in a while that I've seen where it feels like universally everyone loves this movie. It feels like outside of like everything everywhere all at once, this
Yep.
is like this year's movie where it's like everyone universally agrees this is great. And there's some crazy stuff like it's like the highest rated superhero movie of all time. It's like on Rotten Tomatoes. I think like on like Letterboxd is like the fourth like highest rated film ever on there. What are your kind of opinions on just like the like just like universal praise going on with it? Do you think it deserves all of this?
Uh, I do think. I mean, just to spoil my general thoughts, I do think it's a great movie. I do think it deserves a lot of praise. I think there's a small hint of like recency bias, just like,
Sure,
oh my god, that's kind of lifting it up just a little higher than I think it maybe deserves. Which we can get into a little more, but
sure.
I definitely think it should be universally loved and well reviewed. So I'm happy for it.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's definitely a part of me where it's like, oh wow, it's that good. Like out of every movie of all time, it's the fourth highest on Letter. Like there's definitely that part of me, but there's also I think just part of me that loves positivity and loves when people love stuff. So it's very I think in like the film kind of area, it's so easy just to hate things now, and so easy for to spread just like negativity.
Hmm.
Um, so it's definitely nice to see, and I'm very curious to see in like 3 months from now if people are still have this much love for a thing. Because I know like in this like comic book era, it's so easy for things to be loved at once, and then once it's popular, everyone just hates on it like 3 months later. So yeah, I'll definitely be curious. Um, so finally, our final news thing here, I did want to talk about in this movie, we did get to meet more of Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, but it seems like this might not be the only place where we're getting some of these characters. According to Amy Pascal, there's a live action Miles Morales movie in the works, and there's a rumored Spider Gwen Stacy animated spin-off type thing also happening. Obviously, I think we'll talk about more of this like once we get into the actual film itself. But are these projects that you would like to see, or are you kind of nervous about what these projects could ultimately mean?
Um, well, if Lord and Miller, the creators of the two Spider Verse films, are going to be involved in
Hmm.
anything animated like that Gwen Stacy
Sure,
spinoff, I'll definitely be interested in that. The Miles Morales bringing it into live action thing, or just a Miles Morales live action movie in general, um, I think you can do. I think I would be cautiously excited. I don't know if I would be as
sure,
open to that as just continuing stories of these characters in animation because I've already seen the
sure.
product of a couple movies and they've both been awesome. So yeah,
Yeah, I think the Miles Morales one really is just dependent on where is it and like what's it doing. Like, is he literally going into like a live action movie, or is this like just the MCU's version of Miles Morales? Is this Sony versus Spider Man? Like, what are we doing exactly with that character? And I know with Gwen, like Gwen, I actually pitched this like as soon as I saw the like first movie because I loved this character so much, and I totally thought, and I think this movie proves she could definitely hold her own film. Now I know Chris and Miller and stuff like they had said that they're done after the Miles movie with this kind of world. So I'd be curious. Like I think there's definitely that MCU thing where it's like, well, this is great and it's obviously cool to expand, but maybe when you expand too much, sometimes it can become too much, or like you can't keep up that
right.
quality among several films.
Hmm.
And that's definitely, I think, a worry. Like, again, I'd love to see it, but I think that would definitely ultimately be a worry that I would have if you start doing like Spider Gwen and then like Spider Punk or like 29 or I think like there's stories there, but you might have to tread lightly.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. Well said.
But with all that being said, I say let's kind of jump into the reason why we're here today and fully just jump into Spider Man Across the Spider Verse. It swung into theaters last weekend, and of course, everyone seems to love it, having a great time with the movie. Let's just look back really quick, though, and I would love to ask your opinion on the original Spider Verse movie. Obviously, this is a sequel to a like Oscar-winning film, and there's a lot kind of going into this new one. So, what are your kind of opinions on that original Spider Verse movie?
Well, thank you for asking. The original Into the Spider Verse is one of my absolute favorite films of all time, bar none. You know, I have like a list on Letterboxd that isn't set in stone, but it's in my top five for sure. I saw that movie in theaters with my mom, like opening weekend. I think it was like opening Sunday night. We went. It was a school night, and I just had the time of my life. We both loved it. I was so impressed with the animation, the unique storytelling, and also the representation that it brought. And to me, it was honestly my favorite Spider-Man movie, and still is. I just thought all the characters were so endearing. It was mixed with an art style that hadn't really been seen in American animation, and it stuck every landing. It had a great soundtrack, great score. Uh, Super well structured and super rewatchable. I've seen that movie probably 6 times now, and it never gets any worse. In fact, I probably love it more each time I saw it. So I adore that movie, and I was looking forward to this next one. But obviously, that it set up a lot of pressure for this one to be good. So that's the issue when you have an all time classic. You're going to make another one of.
Yeah, no, I think that movie's been kind of an interesting ride because especially in like the animation industry, it kind of feels like this movie I don't know if it inspired all these other studios, but it definitely feels like there's been a massive trend with that Spider-Man art style almost with like that Netflix movie that came out last year with like the new Puss in Boots, even the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Feels like there's a lot of movies that are going for that poppy comic booky type art style that Spider Verse did once, and now again kind of like conquered. And kind of going into this new one, it was very cool to me to see kind of how they've upped the game since last time, how they have raised the bar. Because just kind of getting into the spoiler type stuff, this is one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. I think just like from like a animated standpoint, it's gorgeous.
I absolutely agree. That's like the first thing I have in my notes here is just otherworldly animation that absolutely ranks among the best looking movies I've seen in my lifetime. Um, and they do so many intricate things that I have still probably missed stuff, seen it twice. That if I watch it again and again and again, I'm going to pick up on new things or new details that they do each and every time.
Yeah, no, I mean like there are scenes like there's obviously that massive, huge Spider-Man race scene where like I
Hmm.
think I feel so bad for like the like new rock stars and stuff like that who have to break down each individual Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah, like there's so much detail put into it. Like apparently that one chase scene took them 4 years to like animate. Like that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, but you believe it when you see it. I mean,
Oh sure.
it's to that level. But then it's not even like aside from like the big grandiose like action sequences that all look incredible, their use of like colors and lighting to tell the story in the more
Sure.
calm or quiet moments of the movie, I think really stand out. I mean, when I watched it for the second time, you can pick up on just like, there are times when like in the opening scene when we see Gwen and her dad kind of having this standoff, and the colors that they use are very like cold. They're like a lot of blues and
Yeah.
purples and
Watercolor.
colors that we more associate with like being distant or being cold, and then Gwen embraces her dad, and the colors change to this like yellow, orange, more warm colors, and there's stuff like that all throughout the movie that I think is so cool.
Oh yeah, no, I think those opening 15 minutes, and I've heard a lot of people say they didn't like that opening 15, but I think that's like the movie maybe at its prettiest, where it's just like it looks like a watercolor like palette, like it looks so gorgeous. It looks like
Yeah.
something I would go see in like a like art museum. Very gorgeous. I do kind of want to ask like. Gwen Stacy is clearly a much bigger part of this movie than she was last time. I would
Hmm.
argue she's almost a co-lead, if not like one of the main characters in this movie, next to Miles. Was that something that really bothered you? Because I saw a lot of people not like the fact that she was elevated to such a level.
Yeah, it would bother me if Gwen Stacy was not a fantastic character. I mean, I totally welcomed it because I think their work with this character is almost on par with their character work on Miles, which is some of my
Sure.
favorite that's been done in Hollywood over my time of being a big movie fan. Um, I thought it was great to flesh her out more and give her more screen time here in this one, and I greatly appreciated it. I thought it was done well, and obviously going into the third one, it seems like she's still going to be a big player in that movie. So excited to see more.
Yeah, no, I'm very curious, kind of, because I think where Miles feels like his arc is like going to be part of this two-part story. It feels like this was almost Gwen's story. Like I felt like by the end of the movie, she did have her full circle moment.
Hmm.
And then in part two, we'll like fully do Miles' full moment. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that is kind of
interesting.
yeah, no,
I didn't think about that.
yeah, no, like you kind of end the movie, and I heard a lot of people upset that we didn't fully like it kind of ended on like a cliffhanger thing, and it wasn't like a full fledged kind of like finish line to the movie. But I do
Right.
think that does kind of come in to form when like when you look at Gwen, because it starts with Gwen, kind of also ends with Gwen and her arc and her story here. But yeah, again, I thought it was done so beautifully, but also doesn't feel like it takes away from Miles at all. Like there's never a point where like, oh man, I wish Miles was on screen right now. As much as I love Miles, I love watching both on screen at like any given moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point that I was going to bring up too. Like I would feel differently if I felt like Gwen was taking away from Miles, which
Sure.
I never do. I feel like for the point we're at, both in the start of this movie and at the end of this movie, where we'll be going into Beyond the Spider Verse, Miles's character development feels at exactly the right point throughout all of it, and I think that's one of the benefits of this being a considerably long movie for an animated film. It's around 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is one of the longer animated films
Yeah.
you'll see put out into theaters. And I think they used all that runtime pretty brilliantly. The pacing is phenomenal, and both the characters get their time to shine.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I think like the first half of this movie is very much kind of just the characters like chilling. Like it is very much setting up Miles's like situation, and he kind of just hangs out with the family, and he's being Spider-Man, and it's a very typical kind of superhero movie setup, and I quite like that a lot, because even coming out of the first one, I was like, okay, I'm fine going back into like the multiverse. There's a part of me that was like, would have been fine if it was just like a Spider-Man movie, just about Miles being Spider-Man, or like Gwen being Spider-Man. I think that is the fun thing about these characters, is that the fact that it is a two-parter, we were allowed to kind of just like relax through that first half of the movie before getting into all the multiverse shenanigans and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think that's one benefit, one reason kind of that works is I think they set it up in the first movie and then they show at the start of this movie with like how much Miles and Gwen miss each other that it kind of forces the need to keep going back to
Sure.
the Spider Verse because these characters need a reason to be with each other because they're from separate universes. And so setting that all up makes it feel like, all the Brooklyn stuff and the regular Spider-Man stuff is great, but these particular characters need something more and need that Spider-Verse and cross-dimensional travel and all the crazy stuff because that's where they met and that's how they're going to continue to see each other.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely like I don't mean to jump around too much, but like there is a big part of this movie that is about the like canon of these individual characters, and it does seem like, and kind of going into like the like conclusion of this next movie, I am curious to see what is Miles' canon because it seems like he doesn't really have, or at least anymore, he doesn't have a straight canon to what this new timeline Miles is. So I'm curious to see like Gwen has is Gwen always a part of Miles Morales' canon on this Earth? Um, because again, it's very clear that Miles is much different than like all the other Spider-Man, and his canon seems to break everybody else's.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, yeah, like you said, he's different. We find out in the movie that he, which makes sense. But I would have never thought about it until the movie pointed it out. He's not even supposed to be
Sure.
Spider-Man in the idea of Miguel O'Hara 2099's canon that everything has to happen for a reason. He wasn't supposed to happen, and so I feel like he's this gray area that we kind of find ourselves in with Miles.
Yeah, no, I think again, I'm so curious to kind of see like what the ultimate ending for his arc is. Like I wonder. I talked about this like earlier. I wonder if Miles' canon is that he doesn't have a canon, that he kind of just has to make his own. Like if he's the only Spider-Man without like a okay, Uncle Ben has to die, and then this person does this, and this person does it.
Hmm.
It seems like that might be the ultimate ending, where like his canon is that there is no canon. And again, like where do we end? Like where do we ultimately end his story? Like is he part of the like Spider Society? Does him and Gwen kind of get together? Like I assume again, I know we jumped like way far, but I wonder like do we end it with like his father's alive and his mom's alive and he's like a happy Spider-Man? Because I know like that's a big thing for many people. The like comic fans who are very upset that Spider-Man can't be happy. Like that's a big part of. So does this Spider-Man actually get to be happy and have this happy ending almost?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll definitely be curious to see where it goes. I don't know what I would prefer, but I think you definitely do some mix of like, he's not his story doesn't play by the rules of the canon, but at the same time, he's lost Uncle Aaron, which is a big moment for him in the first
Sure.
movie. So it's not like he's without tragedy because like in the first movie that moment is kind of played off as his Uncle Ben
Uncle Ben.
because
Yeah.
yeah, Uncle Aaron dies and then all the others are like we all lose someone or Gwen lost Peter, something like that. And then in this movie we kind of find out supposedly he still has to lose his dad, another.
Yeah.
So I'll be very curious to see what happens with that.
Sure. I also just want to say that I think that's a like phenomenal twist. Like it's not something like it's not very apparent that like we would be theorizing about it for months, but I think it's played off as such a like oh my gosh that's such a good like twist here, and I think it does like I think this movie like just for me personally I think it plays off of the like dramatic stuff a little bit better than the first one. Like I think his internal struggles in this movie I think are what just like for me personally pushes this over the first one, where it's just because I think what he has to go through and everything with like Miles and Miguel and like their back and forth just kind of pushed it over the edge for me.
Yeah, I think I would say this movie nailed emotional beats more consistently
Sure.
than the first one. I do think the Into the Spider-Verse has a moment where Miles' dad comes to his dorm room and he's tied up so he can't
Yeah.
talk back to him and his dad pours his heart out to him and then Miles gets the strength to go off and do his thing as Spider-Man. That to me is a bigger like high or of an emotional moment than anything in this movie is. But constantly throughout this movie, there's a lot of internal struggle, emotional moments that I think they hit very consistently, which I loved. I also think every like I've talked about before, something I wanted to bring up. Everything in this movie plays off the last one so beautifully. There's so many fun callbacks to the original film where they'll change something. Like I know towards the start, Miles and his dad, Miles is Spider Man, and his dad's the cop and they're chasing after
That was
Spot,
really good.
and his dad has the moment where he's considering jumping into the hole,
Yeah,
and then it cuts and he's running down the stairs, which is a callback to the original when Miles was gonna jump and take that leap of faith, and he's like,
sure.
"Nope, can't do it." Runs down the stairs as Spider-Man. There's lots of moments like those that remind you how much you love this universe in that original film, while
Yeah.
also being its own thing and telling its own story and advancing the story of the first one.
Sure, no, absolutely. And no, I think it works very well as a sequel. Like, I think that we can argue all day if the one's better or two's better, but I think one and two are a really like good one-two punch. Like, I think like this one doesn't work without that first movie, and I think it kind of takes everything that the first one did, and I think maybe not makes it better, but I think kind of adds to it in like a perfect story almost.
Right. Yeah. And I mean to pull that off 5 years apart, these movies
Sure.
coming out, and how like have you seen the thing people brought up on Twitter or whatever, where in the original movie when Miles gets bit by the spider, the colors are originally the Prowler colors because that was going to
Mm,
be his normal path, was becoming the Prowler, and then he gets bit by the spider and it changes to like the red and blue for Spider-Man,
sure.
and none of that made sense to anyone until this movie comes out, and then
Sure.
it's mind blowing.
Oh, and just the like donut scene, it are so much better
Right.
now. Like it's
Yeah.
so like rewatching that scene is going to be so much more special now. Like looking back on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that kind of leads into like a good segue of our almost. We kind of had two villains here. One being the Spot, which I thought he was such a fun villain to watch. I thought he, I love that actor. I can't think of his name, but I think he does such a brilliant job playing this kind of like a villain of the week turned massive universe big bad. What was your thought on him?
I actually love Spot. I thought we don't see in a lot of superhero movies this villain trajectory of a guy who starts out as your everyday like villain of the week, like you
Sure,
said, like that fight in the beginning. It reminds me of like the Crossbones fight at the beginning of Captain America: Civil War,
sure,
where they're just fighting that villain, but it's a one-off as the opening scene to introduce you to the superheroes fighting. But what doesn't happen is Crossbones then doesn't morph himself into the main like galactic villain of that movie. And so I think this trajectory of Spot kind of getting his butt kicked and then striving to be a better villain and becoming that more intimidating, stronger villain that actually can be like an arch nemesis is a really cool villain storyline.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I thought he felt like this perfect balance of like fun and goofy, but also like very menacing. Like I always kind of um fear what the villain's going to do, and I definitely think that there is a topic to be said where like should he been in the movie more because he kind of just disappears halfway through. Which again is
Yeah,
not an issue for me because I think they're obviously going to pay him off in that final big fight. Um, but I am going to be curious kind of how we do wrap him up and how we kind of do I guess beat him. I guess because he seems very powerful. Like he seems like not only a movie threat. Like if this is like connected to the larger stuff, you would have to wonder like would he affect other stuff too?
right. Yeah, for sure. No, I'm curious to see how they bring him back in the next one and how powerful he is, how
Sure.
much it takes to stop him. Definitely.
And I obviously have to add, I think he definitely added a fun little way to add in cameos. We got the like Lego Spider-Man, which
Yep,
with that whole sequence was apparently created by like an 11-year-old kid, which is
I
so
saw
cool to
that. That's
hear.
crazy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's amazing. Obviously, we got to
mind
see like
blowing.
Venom, the like Venom universe, which
Mhm.
apparently a lot of people were spoiled on over on Twitter. Um,
Ah,
I would, which really sucks.
unfortunate.
I'm very glad. I like usually I'm one of the ones that always sees that stuff because I'm always on Twitter, so I don't know how I didn't get spoiled for that. But no, that was a nice little moment. But I really think Lego Spider-Man might have been my favorite Spider-Man in this movie. Like I think his introduction here was so clever and so much fun.
Yeah. No, I love Lego Spider-Man. I was very partial to the spider people we meet in the Indian version of Manhattan. Both
That 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 was
both
really good too.
Spider-Punk and Pavitar Prabhakar from who's like
Yeah,
the main Spider-Man of Mumbattan, I think is what they call it. Mumbai mixed with Manhattan.
yeah.
I love those two. I love Spider-Punk and just how like his whole thing is inconsistency and how that is shown in his whole character. Um, he seemed like very real. Like he seemed like a fun dude to hang out with.
Sure.
And then I also just loved, when you were talking about how Spider-Man isn't allowed to be happy. We kind of got that glimpse of a Spider-Man who is just happy with the
Sure.
Indian Mumbattan Spider-Man who was just like, "Yup, I wake up, I'm naturally buff, I got gray hair, I got a perfect girlfriend, I do great at school, don't even have to try." He was just very lovable to me. So, but yeah, Lego Spider-Man's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely did a really fun job. Again, making him like this fun-loving Spider-Man, but also that was before his canon event. So I wonder if he would have changed after um the like girlfriend's captain died, right?
Right.
So I wonder if
Hmm.
that would have changed his whole like personality to like brooding Spider-Man. I don't know. I thought that was very cool. But yeah, no, there's a conversation going on inside the comments about Spider-Man not being happy in like in the comments and stuff. I guess that kind of does take me to Peter B. Parker because I'm a big fan of that version of Peter. I think he's such a fun loving Spider-Man. And of course, I've started watching New Girl since this show came out, and
Hmm.
that actor is one of the main characters over there. And it's so weird seeing him now. Are you a fan of that version of like Peter Parker?
Yeah, I love Peter B. Parker. He's been one of my favorite iterations of Peter Parker ever since the first movie,
Yeah,
and I thought this movie continued that in, albeit less screen time. He doesn't get
sure.
as much to do in this film as the first one, but I think he's a great mentor and he's a great character because, or a great Spider-Man because you still feel the weight of everything he's gone through, but he manages to be that quippy, lighthearted Spider-Man that we do know and love. So it strikes a really great balance. Also, his baby is the cutest thing ever in this movie. Like, oh my god, dude, she had me cracking up so many times.
Sure.
Both times I saw it. Like, I don't even want kids now if they're not gonna have spider powers. Like,
Yeah, no, I think I loved him, and of course, like there's a part of me that maybe would have wanted more, but I don't know if there's a spot for him. Like I think he had that perfect balance where like he didn't overstay his welcome because like obviously there needed to be a balance of like bringing in those characters that we love from the first one, but also we have Spider Punk and like Spider Woman and the like 2099 all these different versions that we needed to bring in. I heard a lot of people online saying that they should have waited until the end of the movie to like bring him in at all, that the like final scene where like they're getting all the different Spider-Man. I don't know if I agree with that, but I because I think he does add a certain lightness to this movie because like this movie gets dark at times, like there's some very deep themes and ideas, so I almost think he does work to kind of lighten up the mood just a little bit.
yeah, I agree, and I also think he serves as a good like tipping point in the moral dilemma that you kind of get to in sort of the second half of the movie with
Sure.
Spider-Man 2099 being like the thing have to happen. It's got to be that way. And Peter B. Parker like he agrees and he sees that side, but he also loves Miles and
Sure.
knows that Miles is going to do his own thing and isn't going to accept that sort of thing. So I think he served his purpose being in the movie as much as he was. I disagree with the take that he should have just been, coming
Sure.
through at the very end with like Spider-Man Noir and everyone else, Penny
Sure.
Parker, whatever.
Yeah, and I also kind of does also feel like he becomes a vocal point for like all the other Spider-Man as well. Like I know there's again I don't think they're like complaints, but a big thing I've been hearing online was like, oh, this Peter Parker wouldn't have sided with him, and this one, he wouldn't have done this. And I think he does strike that balance of like, hey, we shouldn't like this sucks, but it also has to be done. Kind of this like in between vibe, which I feel like a lot of Peters would kind of side on. Is there any
Hmm.
Peter Parker that like you've seen that it's like, oh, that's completely out of character for that version of that character?
Uh, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of the Spider-Man that I have, like, known really well or do know really well don't get that much to say or do in this movie. Like, a lot of them have
Sure,
cameos. Spectacular Spider-Man is seen for like 2 seconds. You get to see like Toby and Andrew in short clips, but at least for me, I thought everything was totally in line because most of the characters that have really big roles are, um, at least to me, I'm seeing them fleshed out for the first time in this universe,
sure,
and so everything in universe works for me.
sure. Yeah, no, I think I'm curious again to see how it all kind of comes out in the second movie because I do think there is going to be more of a like rebellion against Miguel in the second film. It seems like there are going to be more of these characters that are like, all right, let's side more with what he's doing instead of what like what on Miles' side. And again,
Hmm.
I'm curious. Like, I would love if some of these other side characters got a couple of more lines. Like, I would love Yuri to get more time with like Spider-Man. I think I love I love that actor so much. It would be cool to see more of that, like Insomniac Spider-Man have a couple more lines, or even the like Spectacular Spider-Man. I'll be honest, I still haven't finished the show. That's an amazing show.
Come
I
on, Darren.
know.
Come
I,
on,
I
bro.
I bought it. I literally bought the whole thing on like DVD. The whole movie. It's mine, and I just or the whole show. I haven't finished it though. But no, I'd be very curious to see because like I know like that actor is so passionate about this character.
Right.
I think he's one that I would love to see like get to come back because like he's always talking about Spider-Man and always praising that version of that character. I wonder how long until he gets something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just tough because like we're balancing so many characters already,
Sure,
and we still like going into this next movie. I want to know like where Spider-Man Noir is at since the
sure,
first film, which is going to take up some time. Like, is has he mastered the Rubik's cube? Like, what's going on with that? And then on top of that, it looks like when they all line up at the end of the movie, like Indian Spider-Man and Spider Punk are there, so we're gonna get like more stuff with them.
sure,
And I love Insomniac Spider-Man. I love Yuri, but I don't know if there's
sure.
room for him to get to
That's fair.
become a character of substance
Oh no,
in
no,
this
yeah,
particular story.
that's that's definitely fair. Again, I'm also kind of curious how long this movie is because there seems like there's a lot to do in this movie. With like the like Spider Society stuff, we have the ending with like Miles and this other Earth, and then we also have the like Spot. So I almost feel like we could have like three, maybe not full on villains, but like three antagonists to this film.
Yeah,
Which
for sure.
yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of curious how they pace this movie, how it's all structured, because like I would be okay. Maybe not a full 3 hours because that's a lot. But like I'd be down for like a 240 ish type like timeline or time spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the opinion that pacing is one of the absolute hardest things to do really well in movies. It's an issue I have with lots of movies that even I love, but
Sure,
I do think they're definitely going to need runtime because, like you said, there's so many different things going on. Miles is on this other Earth with another Miles Morales who is the Prowler, and then the like gang is going to try and save him and fight against this Spider Society, Spider-Man 2099, his viewpoint. We've got to wrap up Spot, and there's also got to be a full circle catharsis between Miles and his parents.
sure,
So it's gonna be a lot. I believe they can do it, but I don't know how.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that they will stick the landing here. I've trusted them with these first two movies. I think that they have like exceeded. I cannot think of a more disappointing thing if like these first movies are practically perfect, and this next one just sucks. Like
Yeah,
that would be so sad.
no, it would. I mean, that's like, yeah, that would suck. Cause like
Oh,
even like the Dark Knight trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and I think
sure.
The Dark Knight Rises lets that trilogy down significantly. Cause I like Batman Begins more than a lot of people do. I know that, but I think Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are like perfect back-to-back Batman films. And then
Sure.
I don't like The Dark Knight Rises that much. So it would suck if this trilogy kind of has the same thing happen.
Sure. Justin wants more of the 90s Spider-Man. Was that show canceled?
Ooh,
Was that
uh,
like 90s Spider-Man show canceled?
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
That sucks. Yeah, give him
yeah.
something. I don't care.
No, I like that '90s Spider-Man show. I haven't seen it in a long time. I watched it when I was a kid. There's some
Yeah.
really good stuff in there.
All I know is that like shocker meme where he's just busting down the like walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
yeah, definitely though.
Okay. Yeah, no. I do want to bring up because I'll be honest, I completely forgot my notes, so I'm kind of going by the seat of my pants here. I do really want to bring up kind of one of the big talking points, which is Donald Glover as the
Mm,
Prowler. And I'll be honest, this might be the most shocked I've been in a theater, just because I had nothing about this. I had no rumors, no theories. Like going into like Endgame and like Spider-Man No Way Home, I knew a lot of the main theories and the main leaks that were kind of going into it. So a lot of that wasn't a huge shock to me. But like with Donald, like I knew nothing. Like I had no idea that he was gonna pop up here. I think he's, from his history with that character, he seems just like such a special like inclusion here. Like this movie not might not even be happening if it wasn't for him. So
mhm.
I thought I was so shocked. I loved having him in here.
Yeah, I mean, I smiled when I saw him. I thought it was clever for sure.
Sure,
Um, I'm kind of out of the place where I'm like getting super geeked out about
sure.
like cameos or stuff like that or theories or uh stuff that isn't directly like impacting the story, which
Hmm.
his thing wasn't really. So I thought it was cool and it opens the door for some potential interesting things that
Yeah.
I will look forward to if they do it and if we get there. But for me, it wasn't much more than like a smile and a like, oh hey, that's cool. I
Sure.
didn't think past it that much, but I'm definitely happy they decided to put him in there. I think it was a fun decision.
Sure. I think I am kind of at a point with like cameo type movies where as much as I still enjoy them, I'm a little somewhat tired of them. I'm very
Hmm.
tired of like the whole like again, as much as I love movies like No Way Home and like Space Jam 2, I think that there is kind of a like there's a lot of them currently, and I
Yeah,
think there is a thrive for most people where like just kind of make a simple Spider-Man movie. And I
you
think that
love
that's kind
Space Jam too.
I it's fun. It's
That's
fun.
wild.
It's not good. It's really
No,
not good.
I thought it was fun too. I thought it was better than it could have been.
Yeah. No,
I
I mean,
had some fun with it.
and I honestly think that maybe that's why I wasn't as excited kind of going into this movie because I felt like that we were kind of getting like another one of these multiverse stories, and then like the Flash like in 2 weeks, and then like Secret Invasion's obviously happening, and there's all these like Wolverine and Spider Man and
Hmm.
Blade and all these kind of things. And again, as much as I like them, I do think that there is an oversaturation of them, especially in like the superhero media, I guess. But I think that this movie, at least for me, I think it balanced the cameos very well. Like it never felt like there was cameos over character. It always felt like Miles and Gwen were kind of always the focus. Um, like even when Venom's on screen, like I'm not like, oh Venom. Like no, I want to stay with Miles and Gwen.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing like you could say it got like a little bit of that, like when Spot's figuring out that he can go through all the
Sure.
holes and go to different dimensions. Like they could have just picked like more simple places to go, or not those specific places to go to, but they knew that it was going to give the fans like an eye pop, and it did. And I don't think it hurts the story at all. So I agree. I was very happy with how well they balanced that.
Sure. I think Venom was probably the one where it's like, oh yeah, it's Venom. Like he's in, um,
Hmm.
but again, I enjoyed it, and I think they went the simpler route with Venom too, with just getting Miss Chang and not like Eddie Brock or, like it would have been very easy to get like Andrew Garfield Spider Man swinging in, and it's like no,
Hmm.
they went just with like the old lady that runs this convenience store. So I thought I don't know, I personally, uh, really enjoyed them.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's talk about Miguel for just a little bit because he was
Okay.
obviously a big part of this movie.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of this certain character?
I yeah, I was. I went through like such a like a journey with this character because I didn't know how dark or antagonistic he was going to get towards the end. Because in my mind, he is like a he's scarred, but he has always been a hero to me.
Hmm.
And so I started out like he comes in the very beginning of the movie, and I'm like, oh, he's so cool, and he looks awesome, and he's got a great score. And then he turns into this sort of second antagonist of the film,
Yeah,
which I wasn't expecting, but I think it all works. And I think his character drives a really interesting sort of emotional struggle this movie touches on, which is like, is your destiny set in stone, or do you have
yeah,
the power to be your own person and to control your own destiny and live your own life? And so he's kind of like the blocking force of that. And then Miles, throughout the whole film, there's that great scene with the college advisor towards the start with his
sure.
parents, where he's like, I finally realized that I can be special. Like, I realized what I want to do. And so that whole mentality of Miles kind of hits this like unstoppable force of Spider-Man 2099 being like, "No, I am the leader and this stuff has to happen and we will keep it intact, because if not, who know, like, he's scared of what's
Yeah,
going to happen." And so I think he's a great secondary antagonist, and I think his development maybe happens quickly in the movie, but it all works, and I'll be excited to see what they do with him in Beyond the Spider Verse. Does he come all the way back to
sure.
being like a good guy and kind of changing his opinion on everything going on with the Spider Authority Society, or does he go even further and kind of destroy himself? I think it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think he does. He's a very jaded Spider-Man, which I feel like we don't get to see very much without like a Venom suit or like something like that. So it is kind of very fun to just see a character that I didn't know too much crazy about. Like I'm not an expert on this character or anything.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
either. The most experience I have with him, there's a Spider-Man game called Shattered Dimensions, I
sure.
think, which I played like on the Wii when I was like 10 years old, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. That game had Spider-Man Noir, it had
Ooh,
Spider-Man 2099, and then I think it had just Symbiote Spider-Man was the other
sure.
one. So it was like these four Spider-Mans, and you alternate between them. So that's my only experience with him prior to this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I think, and I know there's like, people like to theorize and people like to do all this kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of people currently that think that he's like the true villain of all the movies, and he's like this like there I can't apparently there's a story from like the comics where there's this vampire multiverse Spider-Man that like collects all the Spider-Man and like eats them. And that's
Hmm.
a big theory going around I've seen. And as cool as that could be, like I think that does take away some of the like interesting stuff that comes with him. That just him being this jaded character instead of just like evil vampire that's eating people. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm not sure. Um, but no, I think he was. I think he's on that line very well of like not full on villain, but definitely not a hero either. Like he's on that middle line just enough, I think.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see which side of the line he gets pushed
Sure,
back onto in the third film, or does he stay kind of that course? I don't know how they
sure.
would do that and make it feel like a resolution or an ending point to his character, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I do wonder kind of where he places because it seems like a lot of these Spider-Men have kind of gone rogue by the end of the movie. Does he focus on getting them back in line and getting Miles, or does he try and go and get a spot? Like does he focus on doing that as well? Like I could see a world where maybe he focuses on Spot and then the rest of the gang focus on this other alternate Miles. And then those two storylines kind of like collide by the end of the movie, maybe. So I'd be very curious.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think I trust these guys.
Sure.
It'll be fun to see whatever they do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I no, like they have a perfect team, I think. And I'll be very curious if this does come out on time because apparently Haley hasn't recorded any lines yet. Um,
Yeah,
so
but recording dialogue doesn't take that long with voice
sure,
acting. I mean, if it's all written, she can come
yeah,
in and probably do it in like, oh, I don't know
Sure.
exactly, but I'd imagine it wouldn't take more than a week if she can work it into her schedule to just
That's fair.
do it all.
Sure. I don't know. I was kind of under the assumption that they were like I guess I kind of thought that they were done both at once. But I get like those like anime movies are very like they take a very long time.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if you think about it, they said like some sequences in this movie, this Beyond or Across the Spider Verse, took 4 years to animate, and
sure.
the next movie is coming out next year. So obviously they were working on them at the same
Yeah.
time to some
Yeah.
extent. It's just this one's going to take a little bit longer. They got to put the finishing touches on, which can be Haley Steinfeld. She's also incredibly booked and busy as of late, which is great for her. But it makes sense to me. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Again, I don't have my notes here. Are there kind of actually? Let's talk about the ending real quick, like the
Okay.
alternate ending twist.
hmm
Um, did you see this twist coming? Because I saw a lot of people said that it was like a like predictable ending. Was it a shock to you? Kind of like where were you on that scale?
Uh, so I was surprised by the he's in a different universe at the end. That got
Yeah,
me. I wasn't expecting that. Once we saw that and we saw Uncle Aaron come in,
yeah,
and we knew there was another Prowler, the the lowering of the mask and I'm Miles Morales, like the Prowler in that universe is him. I think
hmm
that's fairly easy to see coming once you
sure.
know it's going in that direction. But I still think it's effective, and it's gonna lead to some very interesting stuff in the next movie. One thing I kind of I wanted to share that I thought was cool was you're probably I don't know how much you'll care about this, but the that universe is universe 42,
hmm
and that's kind of the other one in this universe we've seen where it takes place in Brooklyn. It's like Miles and his whole family, and I could be totally wrong, and this could be just be a coincidence. But Jackie Robinson, who was a famous baseball player, who was the first black MLB player to
hmm
play in the league, which was all white people, he broke the color barrier. He wore number 42, and he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And so I think that could be a nice little hint there that maybe I'm way off, but I appreciate it anyways. I wanted to point it out.
Yeah, I never would have got that. Not in a million years. No, I think it's such a I think it's a really good twist. I think just like the whole twist of him being like not going back home worked very
hmm
well.
Yeah.
And I think once that happens, you can kind of piece it all together. I'll be honest, I was really dumb the first time I watched it because when his mom didn't know who Spider-Man was, my first thought was like No Way Home and the whole spell thing. I was like, oh, he doesn't remember Spider. I'm like, oh, actually no, that's Peter Parker, so that doesn't work. I'm dumb. But no, I think once that kind of went over me, and kind of getting to see the twist play out, um, it was just done really well. And I think it also just helped with like the audience I was with because like my friends next to me were freaking out. We're like, what do you mean it's over? Like we need to see how this movie like continues. I think that the whole like those final I think the final minutes of this movie are maybe the best and just the way it tackles I guess kind of I guess the hype level and like as
hmm
this movie kind of goes forward and you kind of just want to see what happens next is really good. It might be one of my favorite endings to just like like leading into like a new movie. Probably one of my favorite endings. Um,
hmm
and yeah, I'm so curious to see more of this alternate Miles and to see how he's turned into the Prowler. And I'm wondering again. I'm wondering how long we get to stay here because I think that like I think you could have a whole movie with just Miles in this alternate world exploring and taking down the like Prowler, and like, there's so much story stuff there that I'm curious. I'm excited to explore a world without Spider-Man.
Yeah, I am too. I have like kind of conflicting opinions on the overall ending that is very weird within myself because on one hand, like you said, I think the last like 15 minutes of this movie, as far as like just the quality of the film and how engaging it is,
Yeah,
are probably the best of the movie. I think they're perfect. Like just the level of tension and what's
yeah,
going on and how hard you're rooting for the characters at this point. It is perfect, but at the same time, I still just not a fan of ending it on a cliffhanger. Really, like I
yeah, sure.
understand what a cliffhanger is. I'm not upset. or like, what the heck? It's not it like it just ended. Like I know that it's gonna be continued, but I'm just always a person that wants closure to some
Sure.
degree when I watch something. And so on that end it left me a little bit annoyed, but
Sure.
I think when I see Beyond the Spider-Verse and I'll be able to watch them together, then I'll have less of an issue with it. But I agree with you. Those last 15-20 minutes are phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that's something I've definitely heard from several people. Like they wanted a more concrete ending. And I think in a way I kind of got that from Gwen just a little bit, like her getting to finish off her story, like with her father, felt very like kind of like their ending for this, at least part one.
Hmm.
And I think just as someone who like I love a good cliffhanger, I love having stuff to talk about 8 months from now. So that's just me personally who really does enjoy it. But I definitely can get why it might be frustrating for people who now have to wait until March to see this movie.
Yeah. No, I know. Yes, I saw it again yesterday with my friends, and it ends, and my friend to my right very audibly it just yells out BS, except he said the actual word, and I was like, "Yep."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. My friends did the same thing. Like they had no idea this was like a two-part story, and it just
Mm,
ends, and it's like, what do you mean it's over? Like what is happening? And I
yeah.
think that is kind of like the joy of it in certain ways. Like I remember after Infinity War, like I think that's the reason I love cliffhangers is because you kind of have a talking point for like a good amount of time. Like that year in between Infinity War and Endgame is some of the most fun I've ever had talking about a film because it's just that whole year of like speculating and talking and theorizing. And I know that's obviously not something that you're a big fan of now, but I do think that's kind of like a big cool thing about movies is it gets people talking, it gets people like chatting about what happened in the movie in like a weird way.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of it was kind of weird for me because I wasn't shocked when it ended or like angry when it ended because I just like I know I've seen so many movies. I know how the pacing
Sure.
of them goes, and
Yeah.
I knew how long this movie was. So I was like, they're definitely leaving it here, and it's going to
Yeah.
be some sort of big like cliffhanger. I'm just not the biggest fan of that, but I think it's done well. Like I don't think it's
Sure.
a poorly done cliffhanger.
Yeah, I wish I didn't know there was a cliffhanger. Like I wish that wasn't something that they outright told us.
Hmm.
Um, because like they compared it to like Star Wars and the whole like Luke Skywalker ending.
Yeah,
Um,
Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
Yep.
and I think that might be a little bit of like an over exaggeration, just a little bit. But no, I personally like it, and I hope again I hope it's done well because I think if that third one sucks and it doesn't stick the landing, I do think this one will reflect that a little bit. Like I think we will look back upon this movie with maybe a little bit of a sour taste.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like you talk a lot of DC TV still on this channel. I
Hmm.
remember when Arrow season 5 ended, and it was the best episode of TV like of
Ever,
all
yeah,
time. Lian Yu, and it ended with the island being going up in flames, just being
yeah,
bombed, and that was the biggest like, oh my god, it's all over. And then season 6 starts, and pretty much everyone survives. It's all fine, and I
yeah,
still love Lian Yu that episode, but I don't love it as much as I probably would have if season
sure,
6 completed that in a way that I thought was better. So it could hopefully that same thing is not going to happen here,
yeah.
but it could. You never know.
Yeah, no, 100%. But we are kind of entering the hour mark. Do you have any kind of final thoughts looking back at this movie? There's obviously a bunch I probably have not mentioned. I don't have my notes with me currently, but do you got any kind of things that I missed?
I wanted to shout out the music, the score. I thought was phenomenal in this movie, scored by Daniel Pemberton, who also did the first one. Um, I love the first movie's music, both the soundtrack and the original
Sure.
score. I thought this one was even better score wise. I think they used parts of the original score in this one and then created tons of new music and themes for these characters that I just loved all of it. I don't think like the soundtrack and the songs picked stand out quite as much as the original, but I thought it was a phenomenal score. Probably my favorite of the year so far. That was one thing I had written down in my notes. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Or
I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't notice the score. Like that's just a
oh
thing that
man,
I have a hard time. Like I'm excited to because I'll be honest, this is the first movie in a while that I'm like, do I want to see it a third time? Because I think there's a lot of stuff that I could do with another rewatch. But I think when I watch it again, I will have to notice it because like I came out like disappointed because like there wasn't those big songs like the first one had like there wasn't like a Sunflower
hmm
equivalent here. I don't think which is not a bad thing. Like that, I'm not complaining about that. But like that was just kind of like, huh, we didn't have like a massive big breakout song in this one. But I bet the score is really good. Like I there's no doubt about that. I don't think.
yeah. Personally, for me, I found myself in love with the score.
Sure.
I also wanted to talk about and the I saw someone talk about this, or maybe it was the creators. I don't know, but they said like kind of a big goal of this whole trilogy, and I think it shows in both the last one and this one especially, is to show people anywhere who are any sort of person, like any part of a minority or whatever, that they could be Spider-Man or see themselves
Sure.
as this superhero. And I thought this one continued that message from the first one, which I just think is really powerful and just a great message to be showcasing to kids and adults, like everywhere. So I was really happy about that.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's a message for like Spider-Man fans that we need right now more than ever because there's like going into this movie and like the game and the comics, the whole like Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man, he's just Miles Morales, and that's clearly not
Right.
true. That's very dumb. And it does feel like these past movies have very much showed like, oh yeah, he's clearly Spider-Man. He outsmarted like every Spider-Man to get up to get up the building, which the whole scene was so good. Like it was so
It's
beautiful.
so great.
Yeah, so
Everyone's been telling me how my story is supposed to end. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
it's really good.
Chills.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Oh man.
I can't imagine coming out of this movie and still being like, he's not Spider Man, he's Miles Morales. Like that's so dumb to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either. And then the only other big thing I wanted to talk about, it's a little bit of a negative thing, just for me was um, this film is so wildly ambitious in every sense of it, which I totally respect. I mean, it's huge. There's more characters, there's more action, there's more animation going on. There's more storylines. It's longer, and I think a lot of it hits. But there are times where I definitely prefer the intimacy and the more planned out structure that the original film had. I feel like
Sure.
that original film feels tighter, more concise, and it's a little bit easier to feel like you're just spending time with those characters. And I think this movie does plenty to replace that loss with just these
Sure.
incredible emotional beats and storylines and seeing this world and characters. But that was something that I personally prefer Into the Spider Verse for.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. Like I think the first one is a tighter overall movie. Like I think
Hmm
if like you go full filmmaker, it's probably an overall better movie. But I think I do think just for me, I do think those strong story beats do just like resonate more with me. And maybe it's just because again I saw this one in theaters and I didn't see that original one in theaters, and I'm probably a more like mature watcher going into this one than I was the last one. Like I was just like a seventh grade kid that just watching this movie or whatever, So
Yeah.
I do wonder, like recently bias could 100% be a thing here, where I'm like, this one, but but I think those two movies are like for me are like back to back, like same overall quality. I don't love one overly more than the other. Like I think those two are still my top two Spider-Man movies, and I think you'll. I don't know how part three will play. I don't know if like my top three Spider-Man movies will all just be these films, but it could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. I think right now I have Spider-Man 2 above this movie Across the Spider-Verse by
Oh really?
like
Okay.
the smallest margin because I really love Spider-Man 2. I
Sure.
think I'm a big fan of the Raimi movies. I know some people don't like them. I know they're not for everyone. I personally love the Raimi movies, kind of grew up
Mhm.
on them. But I definitely have a clear favorite currently, which still is the original Into the Spider-Verse. But there's no doubt in my mind that this is a worthy sequel and a movie I'm so happy that we've had, and I've loved seeing it both times. For me, again, just like that original is one of my favorite movies ever, so it's a high bar to live up to.
Sure.
Uh, one more thing, I guess I know we're winding down. I saw someone talk about, and I kind of wanted to bring this up. I thought this was cool, and say that maybe beyond this specific story these movies are telling as a trilogy, the true legacy of Spider Verse is going to be freeing these sort of American animators to go for it and
Mm,
showcase just like these crazy art styles and passion that they have and skills that they have that maybe before these movies' success, both critically and commercially, as this one is making quite a bit of money, studios are going to be more inclined to let animators really go for it, which I think is a great point. That even beyond the specific story, these movies' legacy in Hollywood is going to be a big
oh,
thing.
100%. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, again, I think the original movie definitely inspired a lot of these other movies that are coming out now. And I hope like we get even more because I think animated movies are still getting that short end of the stick when it comes to like critics and like award shows and just people like there are people I've seen who said who very much say that these aren't the best Spider-Man movies because they're animated, and that's
Yeah,
ridiculous to me. Like that mindset will never make sense to me, and I hope that we do again get even more animated projects. I know like Illumination and like Sony. Like I know Sony especially have said that they're trying to up their game and make even more like strongly amazing animated properties. And I think that's so beautiful because I love this art style. I love this world of like animation. I want more of it. I hope I know you're not as into like the superhero stuff now, but I hope like this inspires like Marvel and DC to do more with like the animation and send that further because I think this is the best medium to tell these stories. I think animation works so well with like comic book movies. I think those two go together so well.
yeah, no, I agree, and I again, like, yeah, I hope that these movies are going to inspire more and even more new innovations and stuff. Obviously, there is bias against animation. I'll be very curious to see. We're obviously a long ways out, but when the Oscars roll around next
Yeah,
year, um, obviously this is probably going to win Best Animated
yeah,
Feature of the year, which it should. But I'll be curious to see, like, in my opinion, I obviously without having seen so many other movies this year, it should no doubt be a player in cinematography as a whole as an animated movie, probably in contention for Best Picture. I thought the first one, which won Best Animated Feature, should have been a Best Picture
yeah.
nominee, and it wasn't. So it'll be interesting to see because we haven't had an animated Best Picture nominee since Toy Story 3 in 2010, which
Yeah.
is a shame because there's so many great animated movies since then. So I hope this movie shows up in more categories than just Best Animated Feature because it deserves it.
Yeah, no. I mean 100%. And I wonder because I feel like these movies almost have even more going against it because it's like it's animation, but it's also superheroes, which I feel like doesn't get a lot of talk when it comes to like award shows and stuff like that. Of course, like Joker, what was like nominated for Best Picture, and
Yeah,
like Dark Knight,
Joker
right as
had
well.
yeah, it had like 11 Oscar nominations.
That's
Joker
great.
did
Yeah.
did super well.
I also think there's like an argument to be had. It's barely a comic book movie though. Like there's very little about Joker that feels. It's more like a gangster noir type film. I feel like.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a crime like sort of mental health
Hmm.
uh drama that Todd Phillips kind of injected into the Joker
Yeah.
DC world because he knew more people would watch it, and the movie made $1 billion, and the rest is history. Now we're getting Lady Gaga singing as Harley Quinn in a musical. So
I'm ready.
what do you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very interesting. I hope it gets nominated for Best Picture. I don't need it to win, but if it just gets like nominated, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to see. I can't imagine it being pushed outside of my top 10 movies of this year. I do think there's
Sure,
a lot of great stuff coming up, but yeah, I hope it's at least considered at the very least.
sure. definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to think like any final thoughts I have. I do just want to mention J.K. Simmons. Love this man. I'm glad that he keeps getting brought back to play this character. Like I think
Mm,
he's at a point with that character where he has to play it until he dies now. Like there's no one else that can like even the versions of the characters that's not played by him, they cast someone that sounds like him. So I think it's
hmm
so funny that he played multiple versions of that character and multiple Earths and multiple things. And he just I think he's just that character now, which I love.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going back to 2002. That's still like one of the greatest comic book castings
Oh,
of all time.
yeah,
No question, hands down. So it's super fun to see him, and I hope he continues to do it. As he ages, it's obviously it gets
sure.
trickier to figure out how to work him in. But with stuff like animated, where it's just like a voice, and then you can model it off of him however you want, I think there's tons of opportunities.
Sure.
He's also busy doing like Oscar-winning work in other stuff, so
Yeah.
he's got his
He's
career made
everywhere,
for him.
man. I see him like I'm always like, "Oh, he's in this too?" Like I just saw him yesterday. Like he's in so much stuff. I love him.
Yeah,
Um
one of the
I
best Santa Clauses, by the way. Shout out Claus.
yes. Invincible season 2 is also this year, so probably see him in there.
Oh
Um
right, yeah. I don't
yeah.
like that show as much as everybody else on the planet,
No.
unfortunately. But
I also did just want to talk about the humor because I actually thought the humor in this movie was really good. Like Peter
ooh.
Park's car is one of my favorite jokes ever.
Yeah, no, I thought the humor was good. There weren't laugh out loud or a lot of laugh out loud funny
It's very
moments for
subtle.
me, but I never thought a joke failed to land with
Sure.
me. Like I they never made an attempt at humor that I was like, that's dumb. Like I'm stop that. Which happens in the MCU in recent years
Yeah.
fairly often for me. So I'm happy with I thought the humor was good as well. I agree.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, again, love this movie. Thought it was an absolutely splendid time. Counting down the days for next March. But with all that being said, that's all that I have. Again, do you have any final things that you want to say that you want to shout out
Uh
or anything?
no, I mean just yeah, thanks for having me on. It's so great to talk about this movie. I was looking forward to it. Definitely lived up to the hype, and we'll definitely have to see and be looking forward to the conclusion next March, which releases on the same day as Bong Joon Ho's new movie, Mickey 17, which I'll be also excited for.
Yes.
But yeah, it was super fun to do this. Be back on the channel for the first time in years.
We will have to
Uh,
have you back for something.
yeah,
It has to be something.
Barbie movie, baby.
Oh, I'd be so down. I'm so excited for Barbie.
I
Just
cannot wait. That is going to be the best day in the history of cinema when
I
Barbie and
am
Oppenheimer come out.
I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready for. I'm not as excited for Oppenheimer, but I think it's going to be a great two-parter, a great double feature.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I just want to give a shout out to everyone that was in the chat today. Three Dubs reviews. Justin was here. Great to see you. Promo Central, our good old buddy. The stranger came in. Robert came in. Thank you everyone who chatted in the chat, held down the chat for us. Make sure everyone goes checks out Everest's very consistent YouTube channel. He uploads
Oh
every single
boy.
day,
Oh
every
no.
day,
Don't put
without
this
miss.
pressure on me. I'm gonna
No
have to
man,
actually upload now.
no man. I mean,
God.
he has a great catalog of stuff from his years, from his younger years.
Yeah, go
All
watch me grow up, man.
man,
Live on video.
absolutely. Go check out his Twitter. He talks a lot about sports and the
I
like
do talk a lot
football
about
and
sports on Twitter lately.
all of that fun stuff. And then of course we have all my stuff. Subscribe. We have a Discord channel. I'm not sure what streams look like next week. We have a couple of things in mind, a couple of guests in mind, but not fully. Don't have the schedule up quite yet. But again, thank you everyone who watched. But I will see you guys on the flip side. Bye bye.